Yeah, this is his mess kit, you can see. And it's decorated, we call this decorated, and it's personalized, which allows us to really identify an everyday piece of equipment with a man. And, you know, this really helps us with our mission and help teach and understand about the military experience.
And I'm just going to interrupt and complete non sequitur, just let people know that we are streaming now on Facebook and YouTube. I'm flying solo without Ellie. You probably got a message on your screen saying this is now being streamed. And that's because Ellie isn't here and I forgot to click a button that causes the restream. So we are restreaming this or streaming this now live on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, sorry about that.
Sure. So continuing in World War I, and I don't know if most people know this, it's a great fact to know and understand. The Purple Heart, we all know, is a medal given for wounds occurred in combat. But before World War I and during World War I, there was no Purple Heart. It actually came out in the 1930s, 1932 to be specific. And if you had been wounded in World War I, this is what you got, this big frameable certificate that was filled in with your name, or killed in action, that would also say killed in action. But this one, as you see, it says was wounded in action. And this was, you know, how you let people know that you had been wounded. There's another way, which we'll see in a second. But this was the award that you got. So we'll go to the next slide. So the Purple Heart comes out in 1932, and it's retroactive to World War I. And a World War I soldier had to prove that he was treated in a hospital. There had to be records of his wound, treated in a hospital, and then he would be the recipient of the Purple Heart. So 1932, if you're wondering why that date is important, you need only to look at the portrait of George Washington in the Purple Heart, and that's his 200th birthday. And this was the Purple Heart actually was a award of merit that was given to several soldiers in Washington's army, not for wounds, but for gallantry. And it was just kind of picked up as the motif that would be used to honor soldiers who had been wounded. You'll also notice on the ribbon here above the planchette, it's called the Purple Heart itself. Those clusters, and you military men know, clusters mean a multiple award for a medal. And by 1932, it hadn't really been standardized yet. So when they gave clusters, they gave clusters.
They were big. I was just going to say they're huge.
They're called thumbnail clusters. They're gigantic. Very shortly afterwards, they got to be small. So these are rare, relatively rare, to have them on an original medal. And also, it tells you that this soldier is recipient of two clusters, and the medal itself is 3 wounds. So, you know, it's part of his story and part of the storytelling. You can see to the right, there's just a victory medal listing all the campaigns this particular soldier was in. John Stratka, 5th Machine Gun Company, 23rd Infantry, 2nd Division, World War I. Let's go to the next slide.
General Douglas MacArthur was the person in charge of the George Washington Bicentennial Commission that struck the Purple Heart in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's the bicentennial of his birth. I'll give everybody one guess. Who was awarded Purple Heart number 1?
They were numbered. Who got number 1?
Who got number 1? And it wasn't for being wounded. General MacArthur gave it to himself. What a guy. Okay.
Here's the best of Stratka's uniform. And you see the Purple Heart, you see the Victory Medal with all the campaign bars. The other medal is a 2nd Division medal that was an interdivisional medal that was put out by the division in 1919. And he has a fourragere he's wearing on his shoulder. Some of you'll know what that is. That's an award given by a foreign country. This one was given by France to units that fought in France. And you notice on the knot up there, there's a crossed rifles with a 5 MG, 5th machine gun, and a little star, which is 2nd Infantry Division. So, and I just want to look over to the left too. On his sleeve, the 3 chevrons that are upside down. That was the other way that wounds were recognized in World War I. On the sleeve, they were you were given an upside down chevron to denote each wound. So that corresponds, of course, with his medal. You want to talk about
So the interesting thing, this is on display now in our World War I case. We were talking earlier about our inventory process. So when we started inventorying, we found the Purple Heart, and it has his name on the back. So we knew who the Purple Heart belonged to, and we were wondering if we had anything else. We kept inventorying, going through the process. We found, opened up this big box that had all these jackets in it, pulled out the jackets, and inside the jacket was his name, Straka. So we're like, oh my goodness, we have the jacket, we have the medals. What else did we find separate? Was that?
with the collar discs?
Oh, the collar discs were separate. So it was putting these puzzles back together. And one thing you have to remember is that when we first opened in 1910, we weren't going to be a museum, we were a memorial. So when they brought things in, they kind of like, okay, I'm going to put all medals over here, and I'm going to put all jackets over here, and I'm going to put, all pants over here. So putting these puzzles back together is just a real feat for Mike and I. When we are able to go ahead now and put this jacket on display, and we put it on for the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. So it is still now on display, and we have the collection back together.
Do you mind if I emphasize that since 1910, veterans and veterans' families have been bringing boxes of stuff to soldiers and sailors and saying, hey, we don't know what to do with this, please take it. And so, you had no process for inventorying this stuff. You weren't a museum. So it would be thrown in a box or put on a hanger or put in a vault somewhere.
Put in storage. Yep.
Yeah, put in storage. And now,
Yeah.
decades later, you're trying to match everything up to tell a particular soldier's story. That is a wonderful project and a very difficult one, I imagine.
But it's rewarding.
It's rewarding. It really is. We're able to go ahead and put the pants, the jacket, the medal, and we get a story of this gentleman, just a little snippet of his story. It's a victory for us. It really is.
Don Nemchek asks, is this soldier named Straka related to the Iwo Jima flag raiser? I think the flag raiser was Strank, right?
Yeah, it was Strang. Yeah.
Mike Strank. So a similar kind of name, very much a Western Pennsylvania name, Straka.
One of our favorite pieces. This is, I can say honestly, for Mike and I both, is this Medal of Honor.
Yeah, I mentioned before, we have 7 medals of honor, and they are all national treasures. Again, this one stands out above, kind of above the pack, and it the recipient was Tech Sergeant John J. Pinder, 1st Infantry Division. The award was for D-Day. So Pinder was on D-Day. It was his 32nd birthday. He was a little bit older. He was in the 1st Infantry Division, which had already fought its way across Italy. So he was a veteran of a lot of combat. He was a radio operator. Before the war, he had been a professional baseball player in the farm team leagues. But this is a distinction that lets him be the only professional baseball player to be a recipient of the Medal of Honor. So at D-Day, he's in one of the first landing craft to approach the beach. The gates go down. They're subject to enemy fire right away. A number in his boatload were killed right off the bat. Pinder's in the back, and he jumps over the landing craft, the edge of the landing craft. As he does, bullet ricochets and tears through his face. The left side of his face is badly wounded. He's chest deep in water, carrying a radio that one of the testimonies said weighed as much as an air conditioner, a portable air conditioner. Pound radio. He's struggling to get to the beach through the water. He gets onto the beach under heavy fire, of course. Starts to put his radio together. He's a key person. Radio is needed to radio back to the ships how to direct fire, where to land more troops. Finds the radio is broken and not operable. So he gets up and combs the beach, because there were other radios coming in with other operators, under fire, looking for another radio. And at that point in time, he was hit in both legs by machine gun fire, but he managed to find another radio, refused treatment, came back, set up his radio, got it working, and was killed by a sniper. That was pretty heroic. I mean, we always get goosebumps when we tell his story. And not only that being his birthday and a professional baseball player, but here's a guy who, didn't even carry a gun. Like a lot of citations you'll read where the soldier, first of all, saved wounded comrades, but wiped out machine gun positions or killed so many enemy soldiers. And Pinder is not going to do that. And also another sidelight to his story is his brother was a B-17 pilot that had been shot down earlier in the year and was a prisoner of war. Pinder didn't know whether his brother survived or not. So he's landing at D-Day not knowing whether his brother is alive. And his brother is in a Luftstalag in Germany, not knowing that John was going to be the recipient of a Medal of Honor until he's freed later at the end of the war.
Yeah. And when his brother passed away not too long ago, the family brought the medal here and donated it here. And that's the picture you see here is how they donated it. It's in the box, it's complete, ribbons and everything. If you want to go to the next slide, there it is John's name on the back. The interesting thing is there was only 4 Medal of Honors issued for June 6, 1944, and we're honored and privileged to have one of them. John was a McKees Rocks guy, so if anybody's from Pittsburgh, if we all are, 10 minutes away from here, there's a plaque down in McKees Rocks that also has his accomplishment on it. If you want to go to the next page.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back, please. You notice on the back here, the Medal of Honor is always presented and engraved, and you notice on the top of the eagle, it says the Congress too. The Medal of Honor is awarded from the Congress after being recommended through the military. It's part of the congressional record. And that's why people sometimes call it a Congressional Medal of Honor, but the correct term is really simply Medal of Honor. But there it is right on the back.
Next slide. Interesting, along with the medal, we've got a lot of other things that belong to John, and we received his wallet and the contents of his wallet, and we made copies of that content, and they're on display now in our D-Day display. And there was a picture of his dad, a picture of a pretty girl, his picture of his brother that was there, the Queen of Hearts card. So there are the contents that were sent back to the family members after he passed. Another interesting fact here is a few years ago, we got a call from a high school student that was doing a paper on just baseball recipients, or I'm sorry, baseball players that were serving in World War II. And she came across Pinder, and through the Freedom of Information Act, she was able to get all of the eyewitness reports. And she called us and said that she has them. So she brought those and dropped them off. She has a website out there with all this information, and she's remarkable. And she, one of the reports when we do tours for schools, which unfortunately I haven't done in the past year, but hopefully it'll start up again. I always read one of these eyewitness reports to let the kids know that this means beyond the call of duty. Whoa. So yeah, you can tell with these eyewitness reports of him saying, you know, he went over this side, carrying the air conditioner. They have so many eyewitness reports. He's holding onto his face with one hand and holding onto the radio with another. And it really, really brings it home on what John did on that day. So we also got to meet the family. Mm-hmm. His medal is right behind me, right here, hanging there. And we had a reception for, these are new cases here. We had a wonderful donor that we gave us the money to go ahead and buy these cases, and we had a reception for him. So David Maxwell. So the families came in, John's family came in, and actually was able to go ahead and thank David, and he got to meet them too. So they were very honored and touched that their family members' medal is now taken care of in one of these cases right behind me. So, next slide.
So also, you might have seen a little of this in the former slide. Behind the Pinder display is a very tattered flag, which came from LCI, Landing Craft Infantry number 540, which landed at D-Day. It landed in the first wave and subsequently made trips with wounded back and forth. I think there were 33 trips that it made back and forth. And we happen to have this flag, which is fully papered and documented. It was given to the chief of the boat and then passed down through his family. And I think not only, it's interesting because you can see how the wind whipped the flag and tore it. There's actually what we believe is diesel smoke stains on a lot of it. It's a pretty significant flag. In the past few years, several D-Day flags have come up for sale in auctions that were pedigreed. I believe ours is better than the ones I've seen. Some of them are from craft that didn't actually land, but were in the background. And they at auction they brought prices that would make you your head swim. But you know, we're not in an auction or collectible market, but just have this as a central piece in our D-Day case is a very moving and important piece. So this is we have one of our showcases, World War II, is about the U.S. Army Air Force, and this particular pilot, I'll let Lisa tell you about.
Sure. This is Teresa James. Teresa James, I wish I would have met her. She came in right before I was hired and donated her flight suits. And if you wanted to go to the next screen real quick, you could see on her flight suit is her wings for her WASP wing. So service pilot wing, so which is very rare to have. The interesting about, if you want to go back, the interesting thing about Teresa is she was the first woman WASP pilot to fly a military plane across the United States solo. And the interesting thing, she has a book that she wrote, and she tells how she did that. She flew south to avoid the mountains, but there was no really controls or anything on her plane that told her in a map. And she says that she goes by the thumb method.
Hello? Yes.
Ed, can you?
Yes, Lisa. By the way.
There we go. Okay. Sorry about that.
There you go. So she tells her story, how she flew by the thumb method. She had landmarks on her map that she could see on the ground, and she went down the map with her thumb. And she took 5 days to go ahead and take this plane from, I think it was from one end of the coast to the other end of the coast.
Teresa James, Women's Air Service pilot. Was she from Western Pennsylvania?
She was. She is from Western Pennsylvania.
No, I don't remember.
I know that she's from Allegheny County. I know
She's
that.
from Allegheny. Wow, I never met
She
her.
is from Allegheny County.
Fascinating
The
person.
thing is about her too, is that she says that she was always afraid of flying too. She was always afraid of flying. There's a quote in her book that says that the fear never really left me to the point where I said, I can be sure I can go up there and come back down. So, I mean, she flew from 42 to 44 and delivering planes. Her flight was basically from Erie to Pittsburgh and then go to Norfolk. And that's how her route was. And she would go ahead. She would say, you know, what's the weather like in Norfolk? And they would say it was beautiful and sunny. And she said that she would just pray that Pittsburgh is sunny and beautiful. And she would just pray in between would be beautiful and sunny. So remarkable pioneer, you know, for women in the military.
She stayed in the service too.
She did stay in the service
Retired.
afterwards. She retired as a major in 72, I believe. I would
Oh,
have-
is that great? What a,
76,
Yeah,
76.
she was
yeah.
instrumental in getting WASPs recognized. She was one of the people that was trying to get their service recognized and compensated for it, recognized as veterans.
yeah, because they were not considered veterans. And this flight suit reminds me of a wonderful story that one of our WASPs told me once. Two of her friends were arrested in Columbus, Georgia in 1943. They had just arrived at the airbase there, and they took a bus for where there was a hotel where they could stay. And as they're waiting for the bus, standing in the street, they get arrested for what? What was the crime in 1943? Can anybody guess? And it has to do with these flight suits. They were
Wearing a
pants.
uniform?
They were wearing pants.
Pants. Mhm.
Women were not permitted to wear pants in Columbus, Georgia in 1943. Just amazing.
And the next picture is that this is Teresa. She flew the 10,000 P-47 Thunderbolt fighter. It's called 10 grand. You see that on the side of the plane off the production line. So this was her she flew it from New York to Newark Army Base after it was christened by the chief of the WASP, the Jackie Cochran. So then this plane, after she delivered it, went to Italy to fly to serve in World War II in Italy.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool.
She actually put a little note in there for the pilot. So, yeah.
So moving along in our Air Corps theme, this is a very recent donation. We've looked at donations that came in the early 1920s. Now we're looking at something that came last year.
Last year.
And this was donated to us by the daughter of Joseph Claput, who is on the right. Her father was a twin, and he served in the 447th Bomb Group, 711 Squadron, 8th Air Force, with his twin brother George, and there they are beside the twin 50 calibers, twins and twins. Well, let's go to the next
Were
slide.
they on the same crew?
They were on the same crew. They flew in the same plane, which is insane. And it's part of the story we're going to tell here. But also in the same squadron, in the same group, was another set of twins. They were plane mechanics.
They were the mechanics. Yes.
Yeah, and they were subject of some notoriety because there were two pairs of twins. Well, her father, there was a mission that oftentimes there'd be a crew member who got sick or couldn't fly a mission, and they reached out and would ask someone else to take his place. And her father was asked to take the place of someone who was sick. So he was flying this mission without his brother, and that's the mission. That was the bad luck mission. He got shot down, and he was captured and put into a German Luftstalle, which is a prison camp for air service. And the next slide. While he was there, he secretly kept a diary, and you can see this diary is, he actually made the book. It's several sheets of paper stapled together, and you can see how much it's handled, worn and stained, which is one of the things we really like about stuff. We love seeing things that are heavily used, and this is so heavily used. And here you see his plane on the cover, a map of the United States. And as we go into it on the next slide, there's a portrait that was done by an artist in camp of him, kind of dejected looking, kind of a little sad. Next page. This is a roster that he kept of Pennsylvania airmen who he kept their names and dog tag numbers, serial numbers. And you want to explain the red checks?
Sure. So this is a roster of Pennsylvania POWs that were being held with him. And his daughter actually said, just a little side note, that he always regretted not getting everybody's name, but he did get the guys from Pennsylvania in there. The red check marks were used by American intelligence after the war, investigating war crimes in POW camps. So after the war, he came home, married his sweetheart, and they flew to Florida, and they met with the American intelligence, and they went over his notebook.
There was one incident where a soldier was killed on the barbed wire, near the barbed wire.
Right, right. And they,
It's in his diary.
it's in his diary.
Yeah, he was questioned about that.
Oh, this is so cool. I mean,
Oh, it's
to
it's
see
a
these names,
wonderful-
Charles Green, Carnegie,
Yeah.
John Fields, Sewickley, and he
You
went.
recognize any of those names, Todd?
I don't. I'm looking at it, but I'll have to
Yeah.
study that. This is a good way for me to waste a few hours, I think.
Oh, and I have.
It's transcribed.
It's
too, so if
transcribed,
you
and
need it.
I spent all week,
Yeah.
reading this diary.
Lisa dives into
Oh,
things. You'll see later. One of the pieces she dived into. This is a map of the Stalag, Luft 4A, and you can see barracks. And you note on the top square on the right, that's the guard barracks, Nazi barracks. You can see that. And each barracks has a kitchen and the cots for soldiers, and then there are barbed wire enclosures around it. So no holiday. This was a tough thing that he endured. And there's one more slide, I think. So to keep his mind busy, and there's several pages of this, from memory, he drew map. This is a map of Ford City, where he was from. There's one of Katanning too. So he is from memory composing all the streets and features of his hometown, which I think is pretty remarkable and quite a great mind exercise and so local. It's just so local. There's a guy sitting in a German prison camp, and he's drawing a map of Ford City and then of Katanning.
What a treasure. Pittsburgh plate and glass right here. He has the population right here, all the streets laid out.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
Yep.
cool? Oh my gosh.
So here we go. This is we're going to spend a little time
We're
here.
gonna spend a little time here.
This is a deep dive. And how it started out was we often get calls, cleaning out the house, got my dad's uniform, don't know what to do with it. Would you be interested? And, then that typically brings up a question either from Lisa or I. How complete is it? We like to see things where the insignia is on it, the patches are on it. So we start checking off boxes. Yes, it has it. And she said he was a combat medic. And right away, that's like a ding. That's a really interesting piece. So we agreed to look at it. Her father's name, Technical Sergeant Anthony J. Fort, 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. Remember that. It's going to be really important. Okay, next slide, please. So along with the jacket, which is remarkable, it had everything on it, including the distinctive unit insignia on the lapel, which is a little owl. It's pretty amazing little insignia. Also with it was this captured German flag. Now, we get a lot of German flags. Of course, we don't really display them, but we do favor and are interested in ones that are signed by American captors. First of all, to us, that's a trophy, and it kind of stamps out the Nazi part of it, that it's been conquered, and it's now, kind of neutralized, and it's being brought home as a souvenir by American soldiers. So this one, is loaded with signatures, caught our eye right away. Next slide. That's the entire flag, looking at it with names of people. I think the next slide is a close-up. Next slide. So on the top, Battery B, 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. I swear, right in my office, right over my desk, is a poster about Battery B, 285th Field Artillery Battalion, because something really terrible happened to them. If we look at the next slide, on the bottom of the flag is a map of where they went, and they start up in the top left, come overseas, go to France, into Holland, Luxembourg, Belgium, Germany, and at that turn in Germany, on the bottom center right, go a little bit to the right, Todd, right there, massacre at Malmedy. I don't know if you've heard about massacre at Malmedy, but it's a tremendous incident that happened to this field artillery battalion the second day of the Battle of the Bulge. When the breakthrough came, they were on their way in a convoy and just happened to run into an SS Panzer division, which captured them, dismounted the unit, put all the guys out in the field and machine gunned them and killed 84 of them. Some escaped, some hid. The particular soldier, Ford that we have here, was lucky to have escaped in the convoy. A soldier, before they got to Malmedy, suffered from, we've either heard of appendicitis or food poisoning. And since he was a medic, a couple of vehicles turned back and went back to a field hospital to take care of him. So Fort is going to miss the Malmedy massacre, but the rest of his unit did not miss the massacre.
He came back, and on his way back, he describes to his daughter, told us that his unit was gone. You know, so by
He
the
asked
time,
where his
yeah,
unit-
where's
asked
the
an
unit?
MP.
And he
Yeah.
asked at a crossroads of some sort, and they said that your unit's gone. And what stopped us in his track when we saw this massacre at Malmedy, I swear Mike and I didn't talk for a good minute. You know, just in awe of what we were seeing. So, and then we went even deeper. So I can confess I've been obsessed
I'll back that up.
with this flag, because what I noticed right away is all of the Pennsylvania signatures that are on there. So, and you can go to the next slide, Todd. It's a close-up of the signatures, and you see somebody from Swickley, PA. So I decided to go ahead and start researching each name and see if I can find survivors, anybody that was stories, anybody that was here. I do that for a couple of reasons. I did that on the POW diary, because we want as much information as possible for research purposes. And we put that information into our system, so it's always there. So I started researching, and I did find that out of the 12, there's 12 PA names, gentlemen from PA, 7 were survivors of the Malmedy massacre. So if you want to go even further, next slide. So this gentleman here is from Philadelphia. And I found that his story, I'm like, well, how did he survive? I mean, obviously this was signed at the end of the war and he survived. And he tells a story how he got hit in the hand and he went down. So when he was lined up with his friends, he laid down, he played dead. And what happened is that the SS came afterwards and were shooting people that they thought were still alive. So they were going on top of people and they were shooting. And this guy tells a story and how, he just laid there and he was listening to them shoot people. So he was trying not to breathe. And they shot the person next to him and shot the person after. And after hours of laying there in the cold, he heard somebody yell, "Let's go." And a few of them got up and they ran. And as he was running, he was still being shot at. The SS didn't leave, they were still there. So he made it to a hedgerow and just decided to play dead there too. So when the SS came over, they saw him laying there, they had blood on him, they decided to pass right over him, laid there for a little while longer and was able to escape and get to a different unit.
Wow. Wow, what a story.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just incredible. And then the next slide. Oh, there he is as a young gentleman in 1943.
Next.
And then the next one.
Oh.
There he is. So, and I think he passed away only a few years ago, but
What a great
his
picture.
story all the way to the bitter end.
What a great picture.
And there it is. There it is.
Yeah. Wow.
Todd, I
Dennis.
couldn't help but notice the notation on the flag. After the time comes for Germany, they wrote, "We won."
We won.
Thank you for noticing that. That Says it all right there.
Yep.
That's a trophy, right?
Let's see. Hold on. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh,
new
that's so
one.
funny. I did not notice that. Let me.
Sorry, I was into the massacre part and I.
Yes,
brought
we
your
won.
attention. Yeah,
Right
we
there,
won.
we won. And you can see it starts here at Camp Shank and they go overseas and it winds around. I mean, it's wonderfully done.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what an
treasure.
artifact. What a treasure is
That,
right.
those signatures change the historical significance of this flag. I mean, it goes from something evil to something conquered, and
Yes.
it'll fly again. Those signatures state that this flag will never fly again.
And there's something about a signature that is so personal,
Right.
Yeah.
so personal to the person who handwrites it.
You can imagine it being passed around in the unit and being signed by all the friends. Yeah.
There's two more survivors I wanted to just briefly, and we'll go past it.
Okay, and then I want to take a break and make sure that we get anybody who wants to oh, Larry Googans, you're clapping. You're not raising your hand. That's a clap, Larry.
Am I clapping? Oh, well,
Yeah.
I was clapping for you. Let me get, oh yeah, that's right. Well, disregard the clapping. Do you know about Steve Dimitrovich?
Yes.
Okay.
Not on the flag, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's just not a name on the
It's
flag.
just not a name on the flag.
Yeah, he, because he's from, I think, Aliquippa.
Yeah.
And he, just because he was local, and he was the last, as I found out, he was the last living survivor of the Melody Massacre.
Yeah.
I met him a couple of years ago when we worked with him to help his family get benefits that they never had. Very interesting. His story also was very similar, as you know, that he just laid there and the
Right.
German soldier came up and put his boot by his head
Yep. Yep.
and then walked away. And he still to this day doesn't know why. But yeah, he was just a local, another outstanding individual. And he told him and his daughter, who lives up north in Erie area. So very interesting. Steve Dimitrovich, last living survivor. So thank you, Todd. I'm out, and I won't clap anymore.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the two other people.
This one here, Carl Dobb, I researched a little bit. He suffered from PTSD all of his life, as you can imagine. At his funeral, his son was interviewed. His son tells a story to where he would be in a restaurant and write help on menus and give them back. In time that he was in a local supermarket and something, I guess he was getting older. His son describes him as his fun, loving, very caring father. But as he was getting older, these scenes were coming back into his mind, and they thought maybe he was getting a little dementia, so these things were coming back. And he was at a grocery store one time, and he started crying and screaming, I'm a good, honest man, and I'm a survivor of the Malmedy Massacre. And his son took him to the VA. He was admitted for a couple of months. And it goes on tragic from there, and you can research yourself on what happens. But his son did say that this affected him his whole entire life, as you can imagine. And it was another incident to where he was standing in front. And if you wanted to move to the next slide, there he is there. He actually went back in 1946 and testified at the Dachau trials for this. And you could see the anguish in his eyes. This video is online. You can Google it and it comes up. You can see he's telling his story and then the next slide too, he's showing, I had my hands raised. Yeah. And he actually gets up and he points on a map of where he was. And it's just, you could just tell he suffered his whole entire life.
Like Lisa alluded to a tragedy that happened to him later. In reference to his family, we're not going to talk about it, but it's certainly online.
It's certainly online. Yeah. And then there's one more that we'll talk about, even though I've researched them all here. This is right in my backyard. That's why I put this guy in here. I'm from North Hills, so he's right in my backyard. He, again, was in the front of the line, and he tells a story to where the Germans started at one end, and by the time, it was quickly, he knew what was happening and he dropped to the ground. And he tells, he only survived because his buddies that were on to the right and to the left and to the back of him fell on top of him. And he had so much blood on him that he just says that the Germans thought he was dead. And, you know, so again, his story's online. We won't go any further. If you wanted to go ahead and Google it, he did do an oral history. But again, these survivors on here, and there he is right here, sharp dressed man,
Yeah.
you know, telling his story later in life.
Oh, boy.
But this flag is a treasure for us. And I've kept all of the material that I've been researching because we do get a lot of people that call in and say, you know, I'm researching this, what do you have? You know, and these are first person accounts, and this flag is important.
It's an object that was there.
It was an object.
It's a record. Yeah.
Let me ask, let's take a little break here because I see Ron Giunta is with us. And I also want Steve Cicero to let people know about the Institute for Learning and Retirement. Ron Giunta from the VBA, how are you this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. How are you?
Good.
I'd like to share a couple of comments of the pictures I was looking at. I'm sorry I was late today. I was working with a veteran with a claim. But anyways, I noticed on the uniform, the letter and the last 4 digits of the soldier's number. And that brought back memories to me because when we marked our uniforms, we used the first letter of our last name and the last 4 of our social security number to mark our uniforms. And I was just surprised to see, like, World War II, they did the same thing as what we do today, you know. And we talked about World War II veterans and suffering from PTSD. PTSD does not go away. I mean, it's with every wartime veteran. And I had the privilege to help a veteran a few years ago down in Uniontown who was 92 years old, who saw action in the Pacific, and he was filing his very first claim for PTSD because when he came home from the war, he married his sweetheart, they had kids grew up, they moved, his wife passed away, and now he's all by himself.
Yep.
And he filed his very, very first claim because he was being haunted by the memories of the kamikaze attacks on his destroyer and the carnage he had experienced. So what I'm trying to say is, no matter how old a veteran is, no matter what engagement they were in, there's veterans out there that do suffer from PTSD, and the VA is here to help them with treatment, counseling, as well as benefits. And I just say that to everybody in your forum, that we're always in contact with a veteran, and they should never, ever be forgotten about being taken care of. I shared yesterday with you that the VA, HUD, and community partners are conducting an annual homeless census, and the VA and HUD are partnered together to help homeless veterans. And with this, there it is, the release. So basically, the data they're collecting is they're trying to help homeless veterans. And we've got a lot of homeless veterans out there. This is a priority issue right now for the VA in the year 2022, because no veteran should be homeless. And I deal with this myself also on a daily basis. So if anybody knows of anybody who's either homeless or at risk of becoming homeless, they should get in touch with the VA hospital right away, to the social workers, so we can take and provide support to those veterans. And that's very important. And that's all I have really for today. Oh, one other thing. I will be at the anniversary dinner for the Tet Offensive on February 19th. I'll be attending. And so if anybody sees me and they want to ping me for a question or something, I'll be more than happy to help anybody who's there.
You hear that, Larry? I'll get to see you in person, Ron.
Yes. Oh, and Larry, if you'd like to have some benefit books or pamphlets or something to put out for people to grab, let me know and I'll bring them with me.
Bring whatever you can handle, Ron. Yes, I'd love to have them. I just put a note in there. I was waiting, Todd, to ask people if they plan on attending, that we need to get the tickets today because we have to let the Fez know how many people are coming. Right now, it's about 370. So we do have room for another 100 people if someone wants to come come. Thanks for the plug, Ron, and we'll see you there. Unfortunately, you'll have to listen to that speaker again.
That's no problem. I'll enjoy it. And plus, I understand Bill Russo is going to be there as a guest speaker also.
Who's going to be? Who's that?
Bill Russo.
Ah,
That's
okay.
right, Ron.
Yeah, I know Bill Russo very well. Thank you. I'll see him in a couple of hours. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is Saturday night at the Fez in Aliquippa, the VVA 862 TET party, Saturday night, February 19th. It begins at 4:30, but when does it really start? I mean, that's kind of like the pregame.
Yeah, no, the doors open at 4:30.
Okay.
That gives us an hour and a half to get people in and seated.
So
it'll start at 6.
Got it.
And for about an hour or thereabouts, and then dinner will be served thereafter, usually about 7. And we'll have dinner served and then music to follow.
And if you want to attend and you want to look at the information for this event, VVA862.org.
Yes.
VVA862.org. And it's always a wonderful event if you're here in Western Pennsylvania. I hope you'll join us.
And I put 2 phone numbers in there. The first one is Lee Corfield, who has the tickets. The second is mine, and I can make sure that you get them. When I say, I hesitate to say this when I say today is the last day, but yeah, you know what I mean. We have to let the Fez know by Friday, so they
might
can
be able to sneak in after.
Yeah, I might be able to sneak in 1 or 2, but please don't wait. And love to have you come. Thanks, Todd, and thanks, Ron, for the plug.
You bet. I know where you're coming from, Larry, because we do events, and I think every event facility in Western Pennsylvania, they see me coming, they turn the other way, because we're always giving people last minute RSVPs, and that throws off their plans.
I will plug the Fez. The Fez works outstanding with us. They are as flexible as you could imagine and allow. Anyway, thanks everyone.
They're terrific. Steve Cicero, you are with, how are you doing, Steve? Good to see you.
It's good to see you, Todd, and good to see everyone else.
I thought I'd share the website here for the Institute for Learning and Retirement.
Yes, and please check it out, everyone. The Institute for Learning and Retirement is an organization that was originally started up in Slippery Rock, affiliated with the college, but we're now separate. But it's basically a lifelong learning institute, and we do classes and we do trips, and the website is the place to go. You can register our new semester, and basically it's just kind of like a college for adults, is starting next week, registration. In fact, I have the flyer, so rather than take a whole lot of time and talk about it right now, I'm going to show my technical expertise here, and I'm going to try and put it in the chat, and if I can't, Todd, I'm going to send it to you in an email, and maybe you can put it in the chat. Because the flyer that I just got from Christine a couple days ago has all the information for the current semester in 1 page, front and back.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, if you send it to me, I'll make sure to pass it along. You can certainly put it here in the chat, and we could put it on the Facebook side also, Steve.
Yeah, for a very, very small fee, at least I think it's a small fee, you can do a whole lot of classes, and there's many, many, many of them that are Zoom classes. So it doesn't matter where you're at right now, you can get involved in the Institute for Learning and Retirement.
And that's ilretirement.org, ilretirement.org. You could look at the schedule, upcoming schedule for the spring. Classes are online and in person, both. So thank you, Steve, for joining us and for for directing the Institute for Learning and Retirement.
Yeah, and the VBC and the ILR are going to be doing some projects together. We're going to be working on that and really looking forward to that. Thanks so much for giving me an opportunity for a minute there, Todd.
You bet. Lisa and Mike, I know that there are many more artifacts that you're prepared to talk about. We're probably not going to be able to get to them all. But I do want to ask you a question on behalf of everybody here. And that is, let's say I have a family member who has passed away, or a family member who's downsizing, and they have their, yearbooks and medals and maybe parts of a uniform, letters. Would that be something that would be appropriate to approach you guys about soldiers and sailors taking it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, We get phone calls like that every day, especially in the last couple of years where people are cleaning out their houses because they're home. So we're getting phone calls. Just give us a call. We normally like for somebody to maybe send us some pictures of what you have.
Right.
And we look at those pictures together and we make a decision. Is it something that's going to fit into our collection or not?
Yes.
And then we make an appointment to come on in. And we sit down and we listen. Usually the family members know a lot about these particular items. So we jot down everything, so we get all the information as possible. And when you do call, we ask, what else do you have? Do you have that DD 214? Do you have, we want every piece of the puzzle as much as possible. Do you have a picture of your loved one in uniform?
Yeah.
So we want, the complete picture. And
Good morning, Brian. How are you? You have a question or a comment?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I had a question. So you guys do a great job as Soldiers and Sailors of building those displays. Do you have any tips or resources that might be useful for someone at home? Like if they wanted to put some of their own stuff, on display at home?
The only, I will give you, this is the you crawl up the mountain to talk to the wise man on the top in one sentence. Don't do anything you can't undo. So don't glue anything, nail anything, drill anything, encase anything in plastic. Make sure it's out of, you're trying to, not only trying to look at it, but trying to preserve it. So you don't want it to be in sun, bad conditions. If it's wool, you want to watch for moths. And, you can, I don't know what kind of objects you might have, but you can get anything from mannequins to small showcases and arrange things. But always be conscious of what you're laying your object on. Like we get metals sometimes that come in like on foam and from the Vietnam era. And that stuff is just degraded and it affects the metal and the ribbon. And you just have to be very careful with light and materials that are going to interact with what you have.
That's great. Thank you.
And I think that people need to understand that museums, they can't take everything, because when they do take something, they're committed to caring for it in perpetuity. Larry Guggen's perpetuity means forever, just so you know. You've got to, no, I mean, it's a real commitment when you're taking on, these pieces. And so you want to make sure that you're not taking something that maybe duplicates exactly something else that you have. But you will, if let's say that somebody here had a father who served in World War I and they want to, pass along the stuff to you, you would make the effort to keep all those pieces together and they would be part of the collection of that soldier.
Yep, absolutely. So at that particular piece, when we take something in, it's given an exclusive number, and that number is attached to all of those pieces. And then we also enter it into our computer system under the veteran's name. So there's a list of a number that's attached to the veteran's
So
name.
in the future, if a family member wanted to know, you have my great grandfather Joe Smith's uniform. I heard the family donated it. We can kind of. I wish was to be able to tell right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the locations also. So let's just say we bring in like 30 pieces. One piece might be on a display and the rest are in our storage, which is right here in our facility. So we mark the location. The one piece is here, the other piece is
Shelf
over there.
number, so-and-so, room number, so-and-so.
Yeah. Can I go forward? Todd, can I ask you for a favor? We have who we all know and love, Clem Blazewick, here on the Zoom call. And he donated something, and we have that in the presentation. And if you want, can you just fast forward?
Oh yeah, you bet. Absolutely. I didn't know. Hello, Clem. I didn't know that you had that. Absolutely. Ron Gianta also asks Lisa and Mike, if you could put your emails in the chat here, that would be great. And if you want to learn more about Soldiers and Sailors, you want to visit the place, you want to see about the online or in-person events they have coming up, you can go to Soldiers and Sailors what is it?
We
Soldier
give
Sailors Memorial?
private tours also.
SoldierSailorsMemorial.org, right? Okay, all right.
Soldiers and Sailors Hall.
Oh,
Hall.
Soldiers, oh my gosh. Soldiers and Sailors Hall.org. Boy, I
Yeah,
thought
and
I
you can
knew
just
it.
put Michael or Lisa in front of that, and that's already.
Okay. Here we go. Let's go up to, oh,
We're
so
gonna-
many interesting
We're gonna
people.
blow through these for a
we're
minute.
gonna have to come back and show these
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Keep going.
because it's a
There
festival.
you go.
There we go. Look at this young gentleman right there. That young, handsome gentleman.
I've never seen that picture before, Clem.
Yep. There he is. That's our.
That's me, all right.
And
You look the
what,
same.
You look the
You
same.
look the same.
oh, you haven't changed a bit. What,
Not at all.
what do you call this here?
Where you at, Todd?
I guess it's the
Well,
stuff that you're
that's-
stepping on.
There was a ditch there, and we just needed something to get in and out of the tent.
Oh,
So
okay.
that looks like something that they put down on the ground if the ground is rough or rugged and that. So just a little bit of something to make a bridge for us to get to in and out of the tent.
It's called PSP,
PSP,
pure steel plating.
pure steel plating. Is it that stuff that they use for like runways also?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Very
Very
slick
slick when
cover
it's
on
wet.
both.
It's perforated steel planking, and yes, they do runways with it. They're very slick.
Okay. PSP. That's what it's called.
Clem was attached to the 93rd Evacuation Hospital in Vietnam, 1966, and you were a technician.
Laboratory technician. That's right, Mike. Yes.
Clem, you called like what, a couple years ago and said that you have this book. And if you wanted to go forward, Todd, you have this book. I was thinking about throwing it away, but I thought maybe you could use it. And I automatically, my eyes got real big and said, yes, please, I will definitely accept your donation. And this is a ledger of units of blood that were given to wounded from March 66 through September 66. And if you can go to the page.
Actually, it was January to September of 66. The hospital opened, I believe it was January 3rd of 66. And that was the first ledger that we had. And once the book filled out, then it ended, I think, around January or September 22nd of 66.
That's exactly right.
So this book is a little bit like that prisoner of war, so it's so handled. It's everyday usage, thumb through, bloodstained. If you have the entries, you see entries here, soldier on the left, units of blood on the right.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and Clem knows that I've done this. So at first you just see names, you see dates, and you see positive, you just see these figures here. So I decided to go ahead and start researching each name. There are 760 names in this ledger in that 1 year. And I wanted to go ahead and do this for information purposes, but what does this ledger say? No, it doesn't say just names. This particular gentleman that I have right here, Thompson, he received 68 units of blood. And that is all recorded in this book. And you can see on the left-hand side of the book up top, there is his name. And he's mentioned on a couple different pages. To the average person, like I said, this is just names on a paper, but 68 units of blood just shows how strong of a desire to save this man's life to get him to the next station. And so what I did is how I researched each name is to go on to the Vietnam Memorial Wall. It's called Faces on the Wall. So I knew if they were on the wall, unfortunately, they did not make it. So in this book is 49 patients did not make it out of 760, which shows how hard this evacuation center, worked to go ahead and save lives. And then I took it one step further. So if you go on to, there's Clem's name. So just since you went forward. So Clem was telling us how he did have to give blood, and there it is, third, and is listed in his book, and there's the patient's name. that he gave blood to. And Clem, I think your name is listed on there like 2 or 3 times of giving blood
Right.
for your patient. So that one gentleman that you saw on the previous page, you can go on Faces of the Wall and you can see comments. So you can learn a little bit about each particular person that did pass. And this gentleman, I learned that he had a son, you know, and his son was on there saying, "I'm a good person, Dad, and I look just like you." So you can learn a little bit more. They're just not names on a page. And it goes right with our mission of honoring, you know, honoring our soldiers.
Lisa,
What I would like to,
amazing. This is amazing.
We had a little display. We have a spotlight on, which was tomorrow. We used this book as a spotlight on a few years ago, right before COVID. So we had each individual person that we did find on the wall on a film, and it was playing right next to this book. And Clem came in and he saw our research. So all the research is entered into our system. So wherever, you know, when somebody does call, we have it.
what I would like to add a little bit, Lisa, is the reason we had to donate so much blood. The blood supply lasted typically around 14 days, and the majority of it, I believe, came from Japan and the Philippines from donors. But if we ran out of blood, then it was necessary for nurses, technicians, doctors, everybody, anybody to donate blood that was needed, obviously, until we got another supply in. And that's why we have all these names down for, there's actually a couple more pages, I believe, of it, but there were a lot of donors back then. And I want to also mention right now, I really want to thank, I'm honored to have this Vietnam treasure, especially to me, that I was obviously a big part of it in the history of Soldiers and Sailors. And I thank Lisa and Michael and Tim Neff for the wonderful work that they did in preserving it. It's obviously the best place for this book to be, and I really appreciate all that everybody at Soldiers and Sailors have done for it. I never. What's that?
It's an honor and a privilege for us.
Well, it's really my honor too, and I never expected Soldiers and Sailors to do all the research work and everything that you did. I want to take a moment and mention too, a fellow Vietnam veteran lab tech, James Fisher from Minnesota. I saw his name on the list here. I think he's there. I don't know if he could talk or add anything or not.
Yeah.
But he was a lab tech at the 93rd also back in 1966 with me.
Oh my gosh, are you saying that the James Fisher on this Zoom call is this Jim Fisher who's listed here?
I think that's him, Todd. I talked to him a couple of days ago. I told him about getting on. I don't know if he could speak or not. I don't know what his system is.
So you two served together?
Yes, we did, Todd. He's from Minnesota. We've kept in touch through the years. We go to Kokomo together. We go to reunions together, and yes, we've maintained relationships through the years.
Jim Fisher, please email me if you get a chance. Todd, TODD at veteransbreakfastclub.org. I would love to get you, Jim, and Clem together to talk more about their service and their time in Vietnam. Jim, please do get in touch, or Clem, if you want to put me in touch with him, that would be great. So what you're saying here, Lisa and Clem, is here is Clem's name, Blazewick, right here. And he donates blood that goes to this man, Augustus Hicks.
Correct.
And you can see how much blood Hicks took.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what happened to Hicks?
Unfortunately, he did pass.
He's on the wall.
He's on the wall, yes.
Oh my.
But look at the effort that was made to go
Look at the effort.
save his life. I mean,
I have looked up some of the names from the book on the wall, Todd, and it's very touching to just to go there and to see that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Clem, they were flying wounded right in from the battlefield right to your hospital. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Helicopters were coming in right from the field with wounded to the 93rd. So you were seeing them right out of the field.
Oh, yeah, most of them came in by helicopter medevac. Majority of them came in by helicopter, yes.
You were the
A lot
first station that they came to.
Right. A lot of times, the people from the ER would come in and they just say, give me all the O negative you have or the O positive you have. Sometimes you really didn't even have time to write down a name. Sometimes you didn't have a name. It was just.
Can you tell a story how you fainted during the sight of blood?
What was that?
Can you tell a story how you fainted? Like you don't like the sight of blood.
Well, yeah, that's true, Lisa. Before,
Sorry,
before
did I give a little secret?
before I went to the service, and that I would pass out when I get my blood drawn. I'd pass out, and if I go to hospital to visit somebody, I'd fall over on their bed. And then I went to the service, and they trained me as a medic, and then subsequently a lab tech. So I drew blood for the rest of my career in the service.
Yeah, I want to add one thing too. In the entries, not only treated American soldiers, but there are a few VC that were treated, and there are civilian Vietnamese civilians who were also treated there.
Oh, yes. Yes, there were civilians, South Vietnamese civilians. There were VC treated as well. And my replacement in Vietnam, who was from Pitcairn, PA, I ran into him about a year after, I guess about 1968, 69. He was drawing blood from a VC in the emergency room. The VC wasn't tied down. He took a pair of scissors and jabbed him right in the forearm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he explained. He told me what happened to him. It would happen a couple of weeks after I left. He told me about it.
Wow. Wow.
Do you get a Purple Heart for that?
Yeah.
I'm sure he does, Todd. Yeah. Yep. But you think it'd be safe in the hospital and that, but
yeah,
exactly.
Somebody's
What a
gonna help you.
fascinating morning, Mike and Lisa. Clem, thank you so much, Lisa and Mike, for joining us. I mean, you are doing what history, I think, is supposed to do, which is to make real things that seem dead, past, and abstract. Names on a wall. You're bringing these people back to life and doing such a service in doing so. And I know that we've only gotten through a fraction of what you came to present, so I warned you that I blab a lot. Yeah, but the good news is you'll come back.
Yeah, we have many stories, and we also give tours too. So, give us a call. We have a VIP tour, from a small tour to our VIP tour. So, and that VIP tour goes into our vault, which is all the good stuff.
And veterans are free.
Veterans are free.
Your admission is free.
Yeah.
And here it is. You go to soldiersandsailorshall.org, soldiersandsailorshall.org. It's a wonderful place to visit. They also have online events, including one coming up tomorrow night at 7 p.m. You can go to their website, soldiersandsailorshall.org, and connect to that event. Lisa and Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Todd.
Todd.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service.
All right. Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon.